ESL Challenger League in partnership with Intel, Acer Predator, DHL,
Here we are for yet another day of the ESL Challenger League Oceania. It is, of course, season 51, and if I'm not incorrect, this is cup number 3. It gets a bit confusing after a while, Pilski. They all sort of blend into one. But looking forward to another match, another couple of games that we get to watch here over tonight and tomorrow night, and see who walks away with the win in this cup. Yeah, indeed. We can take a look at the bracket, obviously, and show you guys what that all looks like at some point in this pre-show. And we will see exactly what you're talking about, Pilski, where we are missing out on a couple of those teams. And in particular, I guess, again, Thunderdown under Semper Fi not taking part in this. Probably the big notable names, both of those teams, I think, doing that as an attempt to qualify through to the Cologne Major. Obviously, those invites have gone out about halfway through this cup, so the first sort of 2 or 3 matches that they would have played may have influenced things. I guess just, using that as a strategy to make sure that they don't lose any extra points. I don't even know if Semper Fi is back yet from China. I assume they probably are, but either way, maybe they weren't at the time that the tournament did start. So we find ourselves with Abyssal, Ground Zero, and Rooster as the 3 remaining teams in the bracket. It shouldn't be too much of a surprise to anyone to see Ground Zero being that team that took the upper bracket path through to the grand final. The addition of Slimy seeming to work out okay for them there, and in general they have been, over the past sort of, let's say, 6 months, been maybe the top team behind Semper Fi and Thunderdown Under. So with their omission, it'll be up to a team like Ground Zero to pick up a win in that cup, and we'll see whether or not it's going to be Abyssal or Rooster tonight that will get the dub and get the opportunity to play that grand final against Ground Zero.
Yeah, I'll take a look at Abyssal's roster here. Foggers, Vinny, Gump, Danger, Keo, a lot of players that we've seen before. Keo has been kicking around the block for a little while. He's seen Danger on Rooster, Gump on various different teams for quite a while now. Foggers on a lot of different teams, doing some damage in some of the local lands a little while ago. I think Vinny is the only player that I'm not really that familiar with, so we'll see what he's going to be putting together. I think it's just a mixed team of some of the leftovers from the rest of Oceania and some of the teams. And look, they've done pretty well for themselves in this cup. They've beaten out Mind Freak, they've beaten out a lot of the well-known names to get to this point, and have gotten themselves in the top couple, but running into Rooster here is not going to be an easy task.
No, certainly not. And this is a Rooster that I still don't know necessarily where I sit with this team. I think on paper it's a decent enough team to cause a bit of a ruckus, particularly on their day. But also, when you think about Rooster, you think about them being perhaps the best or the second best team in Oceania, and I look at that team right now and I think, can that be the case for this Rooster? And I certainly would have my doubts, especially when you've got Semper Fi and Thunderdown Under now kind of running around. So a bit of a rebuild still required for this lineup. They've been having quite some success by the looks of things on the overpass and the dust too, so imagine they'll be trying to angle for one of those maps today. And speaking about the overall context of ESL Challenger League this season as well, I think important to remember that Thunderdown Under and Semper Fi have won Cup 1 and 2 respectively. Whoever ends up winning this Cup 3 here, whether it be Ground Zero, Abyssal or Rooster, we will have a third different winner from Oceania that will go through to that Asia Pacific final. And again, that's another talking point with the fact that the Oceania and Asia final is now combined. So there's only one slot for OCE and Asia through to Season 24 of ESL Pro League. You will have to play against Asian competition, Morningstar and Fengda being the two that have qualified from Cup 1 and 2, and Fengda is still alive in Cup 3, so there's a chance that they may actually make their way through from Cup 3 as well. But I think that adds a different layer of discussion here as well to what we're expecting to see out of the sort of next couple of months for the competition in Oceania and in Asia.
Well, I think there's like rumors on the grapevine that Morningstar is dead, no? So how does that all work?
True.
Do they play as a puck team? Do they have a core that comes through and then change up their roster a little bit? Do they forfeit their spot? Which would, either result in just -1 slot for Asia or maybe a replacement team. That's something for greater minds to have a think about than mine. However, that probably bodes well overall for an Oceanic team's chances of making it through to Pro League overall.
Yeah, my suspicion regarding Morningstar would be that they're probably going to keep some semblance of a core together. We'll see, but that's kind of the word that I'm hearing going around. In the other case, I suppose, if they do get replaced, the team that took second place in their particular cup was Change the Game, so that might be a team that we'll see there as well in the Asia Pacific final, but perhaps a conversation for another day, as we have got the veto ready to go in this particular match. And remember, we talked about Dust 2 and Overpass as being potential options for Rooster, so surprisingly they've gone to the Inferno instead. And they've left Overpass here as maybe a decided map potentially. We get Inferno and then Mirage. No real surprises to see that Dust 2 ban coming out from Abyssal. Nuke banned away, Anubis banned away, and then we do get Overpass as the decider. Abyssal want to back themselves on a map that Rooster have got a 90% win rate on this last 3 months.
Yeah, that's surprising, and almost the way that veto is unfolded, it kind of feels like Rooster know that they were going to do that they don't mind the Overpass, and they wanted to leave it in the veto, preferring to pick Inferno. So that's worked out quite nicely for Rooster, and it seems like Abyssal are going to back themselves and trust their own skills, despite, as you mentioned, a very dominant win rate on Overpass for Rooster. It's a map that they've been mixing into their pool in their various different iterations for quite a long time now, so look, best of luck to Abyssal in this series. Have seen a head-to-head between some version of these two teams' cores in the past. Don't know how different the teams were looking at the time. I'll just have a little bit of a squiz here. But I think that you have seen Abyssal take at least one map off Rooster in the past. So we'll see how the veto does shake out this time, if things can go a little bit better for them last time. Looks like it was Nuke, Overpass, and Dust 2. Which was some of the big maps we were talking about for Rooster. Dust 2 has been taken away this time by Abyssal. And it looks like it was the same team from Abyssal that did play pretty much the same team for Rooster, except for Iridium was standing in at that time. So a fair degree of familiarity that we do have between these two teams. And you are going to see only one map repeating, it looks like. It was Nuke, Dust 2, and Overpass. As mentioned before, Overpass was the decider last time around in the veto, so I guess that's why Rooster have left it in. And Mirage being picked up by Abyssal because Rooster second banned it last time around. Inferno was the second ban of Abyssal back then. So I think both teams kind of recognizing that they wanted to change up the veto a little bit and choosing to pick the maps that were second banned by the other teams last time around and make sure that they get played.
Yeah, this is the recent results for Abyssal. A loss to Ground Zero. They did beat Mindfreak, they did beat Arcade, and another loss to Ground Zero in the Astana close qualifier. I guess not really too many surprises coming out there. Ground Zero certainly being, like I've said, the team to beat in Oceania when we have the omission of Semperfi and Thunder Down Under. Mindfreak going through yet again another rebuild, it would seem. I don't know if that's going to be something that they're going to partake in long term, or is it just sort of fulfilling their obligations to complete some of the tournaments that they're playing in. But yeah, certainly an awkward spot to be in for Mindfreak, no doubt. And then Rooster, their few results here as well, sort of telling a bit of a similar story. They're kind of beating everybody that's not called Ground Zero, these two teams, and it's just a question of whether or not they can one-up one another, and then how things will go in that game against Ground Zero. But in a lot of these cases, it's not as if they're getting absolutely blasted by Ground Zero. They are certainly getting pretty close. There's a lot of 2-1 losses here for both Rooster and for Abyssal win that ground zero matchup. So all it really takes is, you know, another decent couple of rounds here and there throughout that best of 3 series, and maybe that turns from a 1-2 scoreline to a 2-1.
Yeah, got to get through the head-to-head matchup first, but then, of course, the reason why we talk so much about the matchup against Ground Zero is they are kind of that gatekeepery team in Oceania, and they are the team that you have to beat to be able to make it through into the Asia-Pacific finals. And for Ground Zero, a team that has been beat down by Thunder and been beat down by Semplify numerous times at this point, being unable to qualify to Asia-Pacific, this is the cup that you have to win to make sure that you're going through into those APAC finals, being pretty consistently one of the top teams in Oceania. It's undoubted that they deserve it, but they still need to win the best of 3 series that they're expected to win in that grand final.
That is for sure. For anyone that's wondering, why hasn't this game started yet? We are waiting on a player to fix their camera. As is often the case in these online tournaments, it takes a little bit for everybody to figure out how to turn their phone on and connect it to Discord with a camera function. I'm not sure if you've ever had any of those kinds of issues, Pilski.
I'm pretty nervous when it comes to getting on camera, so I can sympathize with the players on this one, Jordan. Yeah.
You often forget to charge your phone, stuff like
Oh,
that.
I just got a new phone. The battery life is incredible. It lasts me like a day and a half. So if these players have got all the new tech, which I'm assuming that they do, because they should be like, you know, Zoomers at this point, then yeah, they shouldn't be having a problem there, to be honest.
They should not. They should not. That is for sure.
You sound very invested in this particular issue.
Well, I don't know, man. I woke up for this game and now it's late, and so I'm tired.
Old man, all good. Look, for Abyssal though, really hoping that they could get themselves some wins under their belt. A little bit disappointing that you didn't see actually Arcade make it further through this bracket. I mean, Mindfreak's in a rebuild, but Arcade actually didn't do too badly for themselves. They upset Ground Zero at one of the recent lands to get themselves a top 3, did they not?
I believe it's true at the ANZC land.
Yeah, I thought that they would be able to make it through this bracket, but unfortunately not. Getting beaten out by Rooster there. How else did they go? What was their run? Well, they lost to Abyssal and they lost to Rooster, so they've probably ended up in the bracket, the part of the bracket you probably expect them to at the end of the day there.
Yeah, look, if you're going to lose to the 2 teams that go pretty much through to the grand final almost, then I suppose you can't be too mad. Pretty competitive game there with the 2-1 loss as well to Rooster, so putting in a bit of work, but it looks like we're all sorted in the server. And so we will be ready to jump into Inferno, which is map 1. It is Rooster's map pick. Let's get underway and see how they go about defending things here on this CT side.
Got a bit of a decoy thrown into Banana there, and it does seem like Abyssal are setting up for an A-pop. Only the one player plays solo on that side of the map. Big B-stack from Rooster, so they're going to have to get the rotations coming in quick and fast as you get the wrap into jungle side here. It will be an A finish.
Yep, Juice is going to be hearing a lot of that. Misses quite a number of shots there with the dualies. He was sort of half blinded by the flash as well, which did not help. So easy entry into the A site. And I feel like I've seen a very similar setup multiple times from Rooster, where they have 1 defender on A and 4 on B. Traditionally, it's been Chelios that's been solo over towards A, and it often ends up like this, 5v4. They bat themselves on the retake. There's a nice start to it for Chell, but they are going to have to move pretty quickly. Luckily, they've got a smoke and a kit in the hands of ADK. If they were to get a few kills, that obviously not going to really eventuate, as we find ourselves in a 3-on-1 standoff with Reckons basically just looking for some exits here, and we'll be able to get one of them on the way out there. But pistol round is going to go the way of Abyssal.
Yeah, nice start on the T side, as you mentioned, maybe reading a CT pistol setup that they've seen from Rooster a couple of times before, and if that's the case, they've done quite well for themselves there. Danger already gets himself a 2K, or sorry, a 3K to start this off against, I would say, his former team of many moons ago. Danger, part of one of the reasonably successful Rooster rosters, and back then he didn't do too badly for himself, so nice to see him make a strong impression off the bat. Horsebite comes in from Rooster in response to losing the pistol, though. Don't want to let this game get too far away from them, but Abyssal not in a rush in this round by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, nor should they be. Want to try and figure out what Rooster is bringing to the table here. There is a bit of investment, so don't want to be running into anything too untoward. If you go towards B, that might be the right play. Flash over the top from Skull is certainly not going to slow anyone down too much, but that insend will.
Oh, that nade's done it.
Right on his head.
Yeah, it's done a number to him. Oh, another nade has been juggled to the player up top. Good reposition from Skull. He would have been dead if not for changing up the spot over towards Coffin's side there, and he really is cycling through all of the smokes on his belt. Trying to force Abyssal into this A stack, but you can see they haven't budged an inch. They really do not care about the smokes being cycled on this choke point. The problem is they do have to respect it to some degree, because they don't have an HE to break that. Maybe they'll just run through anyway, though.
Yep, looks like they're going to commit to it. Molly fizzling, but not going to be too big of a concern as there's nobody on the site here. So a good read in this particular instance. Honestly, at this point, Skull might as well just run back over to A and save that 5-7, because there's just nothing happening in this round for Rooster. It's a classic Inferno round to start the game.
It is. Kind of ballsy to run through that B main choke point with no HE to break the smoke, though. That's the kind of thing that can go horribly wrong and lose you around quite quickly. But look, you kind of mentioned already Rooster's tendencies to kind of play quite stack heavy on the pistol. It's the same thing on the force buy here, so maybe Abyssal aware of some of those tendencies and choosing to kind of call the bluff in this case. It's worked out quite nicely for them and got themselves off to a good start on this T side of Inferno. And for the team that ended up eventually losing the series last time around, that was back in January, to be fair, with Viridian playing, but still losing the series to this same team last time around that they played. They'll love a start like this on their opponent's map pick.
We still have to get through this round as well. I mean, obviously a gun round next coming through for Rooster, but this is another one of those rounds that can still be pretty scary. You've got now 3 grenades for Rooster, so interested to see what they're going to get up to with those. It's Juices, Reckons, and Skull, so it could be a Nana nade stack if they opt for it over there. A little bit of damage onto Fogwas down there at the bottom of Banana, but well, nothing to be too concerned about. And this time the progress heading in the direction of A, which is where the stack is, although they're not all fully committed in onto the side. A bit more of a arch side defense initially there, but they've started to filter their way across to pit. Timing for Juices looks okay.
This is looking like a very good setup here for the CTs, but Abyssal are taking their time. They want to wrap through jungle side. All 5 of the CTs are here. Fogwas is still kind of keeping an eye on Banana for now, so this isn't a full commitment for Abyssal just yet.
Let's see if they dislodge this round at all. Molly into top Banana. Do you have Gump starting to have a bit of a look towards B? It is going to pull at least the rotation of Chell just to spot on the line from CT. But he's not seeing anything, so the rest of the A defenders can stay where they are. This could get very murky in a second. 80k with the push forward here. MP9 in hand. Juice is right there with him, and that's a bit of a fakey out from 80k. It baits danger into the crosshair of Juices. 1-for-1 there, but still multiple players on this site that are going to be able to do some damage. Bomb now committed, and that is exactly how things can go wrong. When you walk into a stack, it is just Vinny left alone. We wondered if maybe that would happen in the last round. Obviously, didn't in that case, as Abyssal made the right choice to go B, but this time they go A, and they walk right into all the players waiting for them.
Yeah, 5 seconds. This is no time for Vinny to get this done, and he's missed the plant as well. Does get pushed there by the pit player and hunted down eventually by Chelios. So all of those guns cleaned up, and Rooster, patience with their economy does pay off. It's not the most thrilling approach to Counter-Strike, but it is the most effective, proven time and time again, to just recycle the stack and hope that the other team walks into it. And to be fair to Abyssal, they did a pretty good job of working them up. You know, they waited for Rooster to make mistakes. They did put pressure on that B site to try to keep the rotations honest, but a team like Rooster, without much to lose on the half by there, they just trusted that, you know, the stack would either work or it wouldn't, and you'd come into a buy round in round 4 anyway. And in this case, the ability not to interact in terms of the rotations does pay off for you. See Abyssal now very much financially struggling. will get reset if Rooster gets through with this buy, and then it will be a completely different half after a really nice 2-0 start from Abyssal.
Oh, very patient approach to this round out of Abyssal. Just going to take a bit of control of Banana. Not all of it, though. Re-smoke and Incend coming through for top Banana. We'll keep Rooster in control of sandbags for now. But again, that's going to warrant a bit of util out from the Abyssal guys as they start to claim that space back.
Yeah, just pressuring all that util out. Seems like Rooster were thinking there might have been a lurk through jungle side there, or maybe just trying to trade down utility over towards the B defenders here. It will be a B lean. Chelios on the line towards Dig. Needs to deliver. Shoulder comes out from Danger. Does get plucked away, so a nice start for the CT side, and Chelios is starting to warm up on the AWP now.
Yeah, that's a scary prospect, certainly, for Abyssal. Chel will be the kind of guy that can take a game away from you, and he looks like he wants to do just that as he posts himself back up on the line. Missed shot! Just as we start to highlight him. That should have been a freebie for Chel. Should be a 3v5, 2v5 right now, but it's not going to matter much as the time has ticked away, and so Abyssal will just let this round go by the wayside again in classic Inferno fashion.
Yeah, a lot of saving going on. Rooster stocks are hitting some criminal numbers at this point, though, especially given that they started out this game 0-2. Money is really building up on that CT side. The AWP ends the round outright. And as mentioned, could have been even worse for Abyssal there. Could have lost an additional rifle. But as it stands, do they force buy around these rifles? It's a weird position to be in round 5 here. Got a couple of people who are double eco anyway. I think you just buy techies around these rifles. You can get a couple of pieces of util, but it's not going to be a particularly awe-inspiring buy. If they don't do so, though, it's going to be weird money going forward. At some point, you're going to have to mix like Mac 10s or Tech Iron armor in with AKs. It's just a question about when you do it.
Looks to be a bit of an investment coming through in this round anyway for Abyssal, as you would expect.
CT buy is incredible at this point. Still retaining those Galils picked up after the force buy win from Rooster. They really haven't had too many issues here. They almost picked on the cross. That's Chelios. Even in mediocre form, he's still posing some problems and creating opportunities for Rooster right now. Skull flashed off the line here. Opting to play a little bit more passively as Gump has tanked a lot of damage trying to make his way up. Banana already down to 9 HP. Probably want to swap out the AK for a pistol at this point.
You would think so, and it does go into the hands of Foggers, so Gump gets a Galil instead. Two pistoling players are actually holding a potential push from A. What are we waiting for here on the Abyssal part? Just a bit of an exchange of util, but it certainly seems as though they look like they will commit to B here, which in theory should not be going well. There's 3 Rooster players, and looks like Rooster are setting themselves up for a retake on top. Nana as well. Grenade's going to go through. Meanwhile, the swing. So it's a 2 for 2. You've still got Chell over here to hold on to the B site, and that grenade will again soften a couple of targets up. Lucky for Gump, he wasn't in that pack, but if Chell can just stick around and stop them from getting to back site, then he's going to give an advantage over, quite a significant advantage over to Rooster for this retake, which he'll be happy to say is all that he needs for now.
Yeah, 80k with an HG. Could potentially clean up Gump if placed in the right position coming in from Banana side. Flash over in towards Pit. Juices goes forward. 80k's been lost on Banana side, so a little bit more of a one-dimensional retake. The crossfire between Second Origins and Coffins is quite palpable at this point. Don't know if you're going to be getting up over the top of Danger, and it's just as mentioned. Juices goes down, so what was looking like a pretty good retake attempt from Rooster, courtesy of some great shots being connected by Chelios, starts to backfire, and Abyssal find themselves the first round in a while.
I mean, I guess where that one breaks down for Rooster is that they just don't have quite clean enough of a B hold there. You know, you got 3 players on this site. You get the opening pick. Skull goes 0 for 1, and then Reckons goes 1 for 1. You probably want that to be a little bit cleaner. Maybe Skull goes 1 for 1, you know, and then the trade comes through, and then you have a numbers advantage already. But when 3 players are set up on that B bomb site, and you only go 2 for 2, it's probably not enough as far as Rooster are concerned in the initial exchange. But either way, like you said, they have plenty of money, and so they'll buy back into this one and give it another crack.
That's the round where Abyssal comes down to 1 player surviving as well. So Rooster on for the reset here if they can win this round. Full banana control has been established. When do Abyssal retake it? You can see a player waiting in the wings with a flash pinned.
Wow, Rooster very ready for it as well. Got Chell and Skull all set up on this line. This is going to be a tough affair for Abyssal to get through cleanly. First shot will miss. Skull going to swing back onto the line and have a bit of a look. Doesn't see much. And so Chell's going to take that as there's no one coming. But in fact, there is a lot of people coming. So he has to come pivoting back over to throw that incend down. It comes in a little bit late. Still, the exchange was not bad.
Another man advantage for Rooster. And Chelios, this is very bold and brazen play. Sneaks his way into logs. Fogger's just around the corner. Would not be expecting an AWPer to be here, and that is a freebie for Chelios to trigger discipline here. He wants both. He's feeling very greedy at this point. Wants to multi-frag with the USP. This could potentially go horribly wrong, but at least he's got the 1 for 1 there.
Man, if only he had a rifle. It was a free double with a rifle, but the USP just doesn't quite have that stopping power. So, opportunities on here for Foggers. Gets the plant down nice and quick. And he's actually got an incend here as well, which he's not going to be countered by a molly. Oh, sorry, smoke, I should say. There's no smoke right now for Rooster. So if he can actually bide his time well enough and slide an incend through, he might still be able to win this round without even necessarily taking a fight. NK with a bit of a look in. Oh, that was a good effort from Foggers. He nearly finishes off Juices as well. Nonetheless, it will be a round for Rooster, an expensive one.
I mean, this game is hanging in the balance. You can see it.
Yep.
AWP can't be retained by Juices. No one surviving there from the T side, but the bomb plant going down and only 1 CT surviving after winning the round previous. You're very tempted to force into this one as Abyssal. Round 7 could really tell who's going to start to step forward in this half. Jump buys an AK and armor. The money is definitely all over the place for this T side, so the hero AK is just looking to get some damage done and give yourself a decent shot at winning the round, but Rooster undoubtedly has the better end of the buy here.
No connection on the behalf of Chell to start this round off. Yeah, I mean,
Crazy.
there's not a lot of util, is there?
He's had about a 50-50 like conversion rate, but if he had hit every shot that he's taken so far this game, like it would be like 6-0 for Rooster. You know, it feels like. Obviously, they lost the pistol and whatnot, but he gives himself so many opportunities, and you know, to some degree, you've got to look at Abyssal and the flash coverage and the util and think like, okay, maybe we're a little bit lackadaisical against the AWP right now.
Yeah. Skull gonna block the smoke at Coffins. The smoke as well coming through from Rooster to try to delay this push, but that's not going to happen. They're going to run through it. Skull only going to be able to get himself a 1 for 1. That flash through a little bit late to save his life. And Reckon's obviously smoked off from the site alongside Chell is not going to be the ideal scenario. Oh, Keo, he's tried to commit to that plan a little bit too hard.
I mean, it's burning the whole time. Sometimes the audio can be a little bit misleading, and now with the bomb dropped just in front of Barbecue, this round is well and truly cooked. Danger P250 looking for any damage he can get, but that's a clinical shutdown in a Rooster where in a round where Rooster needed to deliver exactly that.
Yeah, very nearly wasn't. I mean, if this bomb goes down, is it a much different scenario? Maybe not. No armor on a lot of those players, but even still, Rooster will breathe a sigh of relief at that one, and now Abyssal in that position where they can't really full buy this round because of the investment in the last round. So just going to go for the half buy. So it's a sort of a run it back kind of round. Very similar to the last one, though minus an AK and plus a little bit of armor on those pistoling players.
Shell smoked off the line this time. The jump spot does confirm the T presence in stairs, but you see the movements from Abyssal undoubtedly looking for a carp spot, but Rooster's rotations have been phenomenal. Again, they've got 3 or 4 players on the right side of the map, and the Molly is going to hold this one. Don't forget about it, actually. Abyssal going to go straight through it, and ADK doing a good job anchoring that one down. Molly will finish off the 3rd player, and now it's just a couple on Bracket's side.
Nice shot from Juices. And Gump is left alone. Very good opportunity for that economy recovery on the behalf of Rooster in the last couple of rounds. Unless for some reason Gump gets away with a bit more than he should here. Eventually he will be finished off by Juices. 5-3 the score. Money building back up on that CT side, and a good chance now for Rooster to actually run away with this half a little bit, but they'll have to get through this next gun round first before we can really get into that conversation.
At least Abyssal able to put together somewhat of a buy. It's been a little while since they've been able to get the rifles in hand. But once again, Rooster, every time it feels like they're at least a little bit tested, they're able to pass with flying colors and build the money back up. Going to get a fight on Banana side here. It's really just a question of when player makes it up to half, or Keo in the pole position to take a duel. But with the sandbag set up and the HE-nades doing so much damage, I don't know how well this is going to go for Abyssal. Keo diving forward. Smoke will save the player on sandbag side for the time being, but the HE-nade stack puts a little more pressure on Skull, and he will go down.
Shot from Chell to equalize the numbers. But he is low. And Rooster not too sure about where this hit is going to end up, so they're going to take a bit of a risk by smoking off B. And sending Reckons on his merry way over to A, leaving Chell to solo hold this site. Does have an incent to play a little bit more delay, but realistically, it's not going to go well for Rooster if Abyssal decide to hit B.
Well, Abyssal haven't been too bad at keeping these rounds where they're able to get a pick or put things into an XVX somewhat competitive, and they're making the right call here. So retake setup yet again. But Chelios very low on HP. Can't be too bold on Coffin side or he'll lose his life before the retake comes in. Keo with the nade in hand, if lobbed into the right position, could finish off Chelios here.
Chell's just hoping that if he throws an incend, he might get another free kill. It's not going to happen this time around. No mistake from Abyssal. Chell's still got a lot of space over at Ruins, but finding 4 players on this retake with only 3 flashes, I don't know that I like this as an idea for Rooster. I'm going to stick around. Chell's gone down. Juices wins himself a duel onto Gump, and ADK spots Foggers, who has found himself a couple. It ends up being a lot of guns given away in the end by Rooster, which is not a huge concern given their economic fortitude at the moment, but 4v4 retake on the B side, unlikely to work, and it doesn't.
Yeah, just didn't have the right angle of approach or util that they needed. Maybe some flashes up the top over a pool as they flooded in would have actually aided that a little bit better, or through church or con side. Was that high-low on dark corner was pretty hard to beat. Foggers going pretty big on the multi-frag there. Now there's a bit of a hole in Rooster's economy, and once again, this is one of these reset situations that Abyssal haven't been able to yet take advantage of. But if they finally win a reset on Rooster, we're going to get a pretty much dead even half.
Yeah, classic 6-6 from Rooster. Seen that plenty of times. Foggers in a bit of a spot of bother here, but he gets himself bailed out of trouble there with a nice bit of spam. I say bailed out of trouble, but there's still some more coming with the form of those grenades. In the end, the exchange of util and fire will be favorable enough for Abyssal.
Well, bit of a stack over towards this A side of the map. Rooster reading this relatively well after losing Reckons inside of Banana. They just have that one player over towards Sandbag. Chelios does a good job picking up the Carps Lurker. So evening up the numbers now for Rooster. The jiggle from ADK inside of Carps does confirm that there's still a player over there. Just a big tell that Abyssal are leading over towards this A side of the map.
So low.
Yeah, he's been pushed away on Banana, hasn't he? But does seem like Abyssal going to head back in his direction, but with only 20 seconds, like, are they even going to be able to make it in time?
Well, they're going to certainly hope so, because that's the decision they've made, and now they've got to commit to B. That smoke is going to be fading, perhaps just in time for them to start making an entry on here, and Fogger's trying to cut those rotates off, but this could be well dealt with by Skull and Chell. Skull doesn't even really get a chance. He actually made a sound cue, dropping off of oranges there, and I think that might have been the undoing for him, but Chell is just still fragging. Now stuck between a bit of a rock and a hard place. He has to go forward and he will just complete the retake alone. There's even a smoke for him to sit this defuse if he wants it. He's got the defuse kit and it should be unlikely anything else will occur as Foggers goes down in the end there as well. So 6-4. Bit of a weird round the way that one played out, but Chell will be happy with it.
I mean, he's having a great game. He's 13-3, and to be honest, he probably could have more than that. Already kind of discussed it. No scope through the smoke is pretty disgusting. To catch on the cross, you'd be filthy at that as Abyssal, who were staring down the barrel of a reset round. And with their money in yet another weird state after the round previous coming down to only 2 players surviving, they've once again been pushed into one of these situations where Gump will try to make a heroic play with the AK, and everybody else is with Tech 9s in hand.
That's a great start to the round for Rooster. What was feeling like, oh, maybe we could go back to a 6-6 scoreline, now feels like a very far cry away from that. See what Abyssal can manage with the buy that they've got and the 3 players alive that they do have, but seems like it should be wishful thinking to get anything done here. A couple of kills on the entries, maybe more than I would have given them, and actually 80K's solo in the pit here, he'll take the fight. Wins it, so all good in the end. 7-4, and Rooster go into the final round of the half, feeling very pleased with themselves.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Been a game that at times has kind of held in the balance a little bit. I think Chell would have been pretty filthy to get caught on the cross. It's the player rotating into the site whenever you're getting killed by Carps and your balcony player's looking a wall. You're pretty upset about it, but with ADK clearing up the last 2 and plenty of money with the orb retained, I don't think you're really caring too much. Been a while since I've seen an orc. Juice is going to bring that one out. Nice nade from him. Speaking of the man, Danger and Vinny already copping a little bit of damage. And with the progression smoke up here on brackets and towards Banana, Abyssal very much trying to mask their intentions and maybe try to catch a timing on the CTs. But Rooster are not really playing a forward setup here. Pinned back into the site.
Another good shot for Chell. Just continues to pile on the kills. Danger has managed to squeak his way into CT spawn, but he's being watched for by Skull, who sort of just misses that window, catching him lurking his way into library. But either way, it's not a bad spot to be in for Rooster at all. A decision to be made for Abyssal now about whether they want to commit to A here or if they want to try and go back over to B. If they do go A, you've got 3 players there to work the defense. ADK may have been smoked off, but he'll still be a factor. And even then, well, maybe he won't be a factor, as Juices is actually going to be the one that comes into play first. Chell's there as well, pretty much hitting every shot that he does take. Eventually, it will come down to the 5-7s, and at the end of the half, that is a good one for Rooster, 8-4. Rightio, jumping back in for the second half here, and Rooster, so far so good on their map pick of Inferno. I think a lot of that largely thanks to Chelios having a really great half on the CT side with the AWP, and if he can maintain that into this second half here, I'm sure Rooster will be walking away with the dub on map 1, but typically does tend to be a little bit tougher when you move over to that T side to have that kind of impact.
Yeah, I think his job's done as far as I'm concerned. Had a fantastic time on CT running around with the AWP. I think everybody else kind of fulfilled their end of the bargain as well. A half you look at where you feel like Abyssal could have had a little bit more if they went some of the swing rounds. They won pistol and anti-eco as well, or anti-force rather. But then I think when the half buy got through the second time around for Rooster, that's where things got a little bit more difficult for them. Set up on Banana here off the back of Gump. Little bait setup for the sandbags, but Danger, who had a little bit of a peek into middle, has copped a goosh, so he's going to fall back, and Foggers will take first contact on Banana here.
Good flash, Foggers. Oh, he's not seen anything, and he's headshot Vinny on the way back into sandbags there, so that's not ideal. It's just the Glock train into the B site that will overwhelm the defenses of Abyssal. I mean, you have 3 players there. You have to win those fights, and unfortunately they have not. So this round is probably going to go by the wayside.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Look, a pick back for Keo. Knows he's got a player locked in the corner here. He's going to chase him down, but with the second player very low to trade, I did not think that Danger was going to come up with 2 there. Just down to Danger v Skull, both 1 bullet from death. Skull playing patiently inside a Banana. Danger goes looking for him, but I don't think this is a favorable angle for him, and it should be an easy one for Skull. It's not somehow. Big swing in from Danger, and does he have time to actually pull off the defuse here? He seems to think so.
What's he got to lose? A piece of armor. Does have the defuse, so that's a really nice retake from Abyssal.
I mean,
yeah, Skull is having a roughie. I think he's just not had much success on these holds at all.
Yeah, he has those games. You know, he's just one of those players that's a bit up and down. And even when he's having a good game, statistically, it doesn't leap off the page. It's more of like those entries and that impact. Danger, on the other hand, though, I mean, his stats don't leap off the page, but I think opening pistol and this pistol, he both had a 3K. So he's won Abyssal, both of the pistols in this game. Just need to do something on the gun rounds, I guess, from there.
Should have been a bit of an easier day at the office for Rooster, but looks like they're going to have a bit more of a job ahead of them. Reckons will be pushed away by the Molly. Might see a bit of a slower round out here. There's quite a bit of util to play with, though. That Molly has fizzled in the smoke, and so Reckons will punish Foggers for the swing. Aware as well that there's another player close, but again, pushed away by util.
I'm trying to clear out half wall here. Know that there's a couple of players that are battered and bruised by Rooster that he'd love to try and clean up. Push things back into the favor of Abyssal. AK being juggled back and forth between a couple of players, but handed over to Juices. He's been by far the standout consistently for this Rooster squad. Reckons and Chelios having their moments, but when all 3 of them are performing together, I think Rooster's going to be pretty difficult to beat in this game for Abyssal.
See what Gump can do. MP7. Not a bad gun these days, but can only do so much when there's multiple players flooding. So 2 for 1. Maybe not the worst of results there for Abyssal. A lot of this is going to hinge on whether or not Juices can hit 1 or 2 headshots. I mean, Chell is down in the bottom of Banana with no HP, so he's basically irrelevant. All he is a camera, making sure nothing comes up the Banana. Juices at the back of sight. Plays nicely to start things off and wants to face off the back of Skull Hunter's contact. That is a really nice round from Juices. Did exactly what he needed to do. Baited his teammates and got the job done.
Yeah, 3K, as mentioned, the big standout player from Rooster. And as mentioned with Chell, already kind of getting his job done with the AWP on the CT side. That's where you need one of these star riflers to step into the equation and win you some big rounds on Rooster, and that's exactly what Juices delivers there. Only 1 player surviving, though. Abyssal smelling blood in the water. They feel like a force spike can get through here. That's back-to-back forces sorry, a force buy and reply after they win a clutch pistol. Courtesy of Danger. Let's see if they can fire back at Rooster. Have caused a little bit of an upset in the second round of the half there. 4 AKs on offer with an MP9 pilfered on over for Chelios, who wants to save some extra money for an AWP later. It's a pretty good looking buy from Rooster, and they're not really forcing the issue too much. Vinny caught on the aggression by ADK. That's a pretty dirty off angle in second mid there.
That's the start that Rooster wants. I mean, you know, a bit of a fumble on the pistol, but if they win back-to-back rounds here, probably do end up actually going up to 11 as well, because the next round will be a save for Abyssal, so it would be almost as good, maybe even better than if they had won the pistol. So good coverage from Juices playing anti-flash there, saves the life of Skull Hunter, and ADK as well gets the kill onto Keo in the meanwhile, so need to clear out the site, and that will be easily done. So a very straightforward round for Rooster in the end.
Yeah, I mean, that's a clean round one, right when you'd want to see it. Chelios even upgraded to the Famous. I mean, once again, it seems like their economy is going to get out of control here, and Abyssal feels like even though they're winning the pistols in this game, they are consistently getting put in positions where they need to dig themselves out of a pretty huge hole. Money is broken. Rooster should go through the anti-eco up to 11 here with almost unlimited money on the T side, and from there Abyssal will have to win a lot of rounds back to back to back to back on this CT side to try to get into this game. Just don't see it happening. Looks like this game of Inferno is probably over.
Does certainly feel that way.
It's rough considering you win both pistols and you might still get 13-5'd.
Well, what use is the pistol if you get anti-eco straight away? We'll try something a bit unorthodox here, Abyssal. Full mid-rush with USP, very unlikely to have any success. Does at least manage to dislodge Skull, but it's really not a big deal at all. So 11-5, get that round over and done with. Abyssal, it's going to have to start now on this CT side.
Yeah, a little bit lighter in terms of the util as well, so it's even from the first round of the half here, without going down to MP9s, they're still not even really fighting fair. Mainly missing flashes. They've got 2 flashes, so it's really going to limit their ability to go aggressive on jungle side or up on bracket in the mid round, but mostly towards banana. There's a lot of, you know, flash shut-ups, of course. Initial wave of util exchange. It's not too heavy for the CT side, but even, you know, at this point in the round, 1 minute 35 on the clock, they're already down to, what is it, 3 mollies and a smoke. So they can't stall Rooster out of this round. Can't just keep trading down utility with the T side. They're probably going to have to take some liberties somewhere.
Well, Abyssal running short on util in this round now. So just trying to hold off as much as possible on using that. They do feel pressured enough to put that smoke down over on B, but they've got another one there, so by the time that second smoke fades, there'll only be, you know, 25 seconds left in the round, depending on how they're going to cycle them. He's actually not opting to throw his. He's going to use his as a little bit of a space creator on the site, you'd imagine, and that is very much going to come into play. He's actually going to have to play Firefighter, as the molly does come through for Nubox. Does build a bit of space there for both Gump and Foggers to play with. They're not aware necessarily that there's 2 players. Foggers doing well fighting alone, and Gump just tucking. Now looking for the swing, and he does take the head off of Chell. ADK, though, quickly able to find the trade, but I don't know how easily they are going to be able to navigate this 1 or 2v3. Juicer starts it nicely. He's very much stuck at barbecue, but Juice is trying to help him out. Won't be able to do enough, and this time Abyssal get the job done. It was really largely thanks to a good job on the defense of B by Foggers.
Yeah, the bait setup is very solid there in the backside of Nubox, despite the fact that they do get mollied out of position and Gump doesn't get the sightline that he was really looking for, kind of bumbling off the head of Foggers there in the back of the site. Takes Rooster far too long to clean up Foggers. And as such, he gets damage, enough damage done to kind of get the round done. But still not a clean, easy round for an Abyssal who will continue to limp through this game for the foreseeable future. You can still see, even after sustaining that loss, like Rooster's got so much money on this T side. There's no room for error for Abyssal here.
So, decent start to hold on to B. Not much presence in Banana allowed for Rooster at all. That deep smoke keeping them at bay. It will take a lot of time for Rooster to clear this.
Yeah, I think better util to play with this round for Abyssal. Rooster opting for a bit more of a contact approach towards this B side of the map. There's the retake util set thrown out by Abyssal to give Rooster a little bit of pause for thought. Will hamper their progress a little further, but with a Molotov exchange in towards main there, and a flash up over the top, they'll take sandbags nonetheless.
Yep. High-low setup here in CT between Gump and Foggers. Bit of a dynamic duo playing the buddy system here on B. It's a different approach to the CT side than what we saw from Rooster, who were a little bit more gamble stacky, but Gump goes down early on in the piece. Again, it will fall on the shoulders of Foggers to really make the difference here, but he's just going to back all the way up. Fortunate.
Yeah, that molly doesn't go where Rooster would have wanted it to, which might give a little bit more breathing room to the CTs over on Coffins and Con side there. Heavily stacked up towards main. Molly will halt their progress in main a little further. One smoke for Banana and a little bit of util to get back in here.
Yep.
If they don't have success, they will be broke.
No remaining util for Rooster, so just going to have to shoot straight at this point, and with that player smoked off in Banana, might actually be a 3v4 on the site for now. 80k starts it well. And Foggers able to get himself a couple of kills. Keo joining him. Time a factor. Defuse on, I think, is fine with the kit here in hand. Whew, but again, Abyssal only just getting through that round.
It's another massive round from Foggers, isn't it? He just seems to multi-frag on this B site, round in, round out. Despite some great entry there from Reckons off the back of Chell's flashes. The post plant not held well by Rooster. They did have no util, as mentioned, though. And there's another buy for Rooster. Now they're starting to stack up the loss bonus. They continue to get the plants down. So even though they are rounding out of money, I think if they lose this round, you know, as Abyssal, you're probably still contending with Hero AK and some pistols. Credit to them, though. It just feels like back-to-back-to-back gun rounds there. Getting through them pretty consistently and making a bit of a comeback into this game. It's not done yet, but it starts to definitely get doable.
I mean, well, is it time to throw an A hit into the mix here for Rooster? They've tried B a couple of times and just hasn't really worked. So you've got to, at some point, start, I think, they need to start exploring towards A. And that might be what's going to come this round. Bit of presence outside of apartments.
Yeah. Same retake util set on the B side of the map, although the molly actually fizzles. And with a flash up there towards the top of Banana from the T's, as well as on bracket, the CTs are not going to be too confident that they've really secured control of anything here. Rooster back to the B site yet again after denying info over on A. So as mentioned, it's been 2 rounds in a row that they haven't really found the success that they were looking for over on that B site. But they're going to hope that third time's the charm.
Once again, it will be Foggers and Gump. Foggers with an insend, and seems to be holding that in his hand, and he might just toss it as the smoke comes through. We'll see. Let's get it on the barbecue to try to restrict that, and instantly walks into a headshot from Reckon. So this time it's a little bit more of a serviceable take on the side. Gump trying to defend for 2. But they do get in, they do get that quick plant. And they're able to set up in some nice post plants here with a couple, again, of mollies for Rooster to delay.
Juices with a little bit of util there to lend to the boys. Only flashes for Abyssal as they make their way through coffins, making a lot of noise on the way in. It's going to be a tough crossfire to break. Skull Hunter from in front of the high-low setup. Juices as well chiming in. Does seem like it's going to be a hold for Rooster as Danger is down to 1 HP. And finally, the T's have broken through. Juices with his 20th kill of the game. Starting to heat up substantially on this T side. And a key multi-frag from Skull there. It's enough to finally get through for Rooster. And as a result, the money looking a little bit woeful on some of the members of Abyssal there.
Yeah, pretty unfortunate for Foggers. The flash hit, but he just walked straight into the headshot. So, didn't get to repeat his heroics over on that B bomb side. And like you say, the buy-through for Abyssal in this round is going to be a little bit lackluster. MP9 for Vinny and a 5-7 for Keo, but still a pretty good contingent of util. And, you know, it's the kind of map where you can definitely get a lot done with an MP9 and a 5-7. And also, does it even matter what gun anybody else has? Because really, this game's on the CT side seems to be decided by whether or not Foggers and Gump get any work done on the B side.
Yeah.
Just as of yet, not interested in really going anywhere else.
A little bit of a tickle towards A here and there to potentially condition Abyssal enough to respect. Danger as players walking through the smoke at him, and he says thank you very much. Easy 2k for him. And with that kind of impact early in the round, could still be on for one here as Abyssal back himself to play the off angle here. Maybe a flash to come up here on towards jungle side. If he does get cleaned up on jungle side here, and there could be problems, but it's a lazy clear from Reckons, but still gets the job done. I mean, Danger was battered and bruised by Skull at that point.
MP9 up close and personal. Could definitely have an impact here. 80k dealt with by Keo. Vinny goes down in the meanwhile. And yeah, like I said, 5-7, MP9. Get a bit of work done. Keo gets himself 2 in the round. 8 and 12. Job's not yet done by Rooster.
No, definitely not. Felt like they assumed because of the pressure that they'd applied to that A site in a couple of rounds, working carpets control and securing jungle in just the previous round. You even saw Chelios invest another smoke onto jungle side the round previous to that, even after they went back and hit B, that you wouldn't be playing a jungle side setup as Rooster, but Danger quite happy to sit on that info line, and when you're just walking up through your progression smoke without an HE to break it or a flash to assist, it's going to be free pickings for the AK there. Shell charging his way up Banana. Not secure control of it. Applying a little bit of pressure to the rotations. You can see Danger thinking about committing to going over to B there, but with the door shut by the utility, he's quite happy to just lean into a bit more of a natural setup. It's a very hands-off approach here for Abyssal. Back of the A side there, backside of pit. Got a smoke on the B main choke. Not interested in contesting any map control, really. Just want to trust the site setups and the crossfires to hold.
Bit of a jiggle. Vinny spotted them out, so Intent is going to go through. But Rooster will commit anyway, and 80k gets an unreal entry into pit. The rest of the job needing to be done by the team on the site, and it will not be. Shell has himself the 1-for-1 onto Danger, and he could certainly charge his way through the smoke here and gamble a plant. Be able to grab himself an M4 for his trouble too. As Foggers and Gump slowly make their transition across. How many bullets in that M4, I wonder?
Yeah, I mean, he seems to be trusting the Tech 9 here as he wraps around dig side. Does he trust his way back through Boiler? Feels like Gump was somewhat reading that, but the timing is looking quite good for Chelios here.
Okay, gets one, and that's an AK with some bullets. He's going to commit to the fight. Foggers low on HP and will be finished off. Chell just disrespects him. 13-8 gets the job done, and Rooster will take map 1.
Yeah, credit to Abyssal. I mean, they win both pistols, and as you mentioned, do get kind of force-fought a couple of times in that game. Felt like they had a pretty decent CT side, but they just didn't give themselves enough rope to work with at the end of the day. And look, not all of the individuals firing on all cylinders consistently. You know, you had a couple of rounds or two from Gump, you know, Foggers having some impact multi-frags. Danger did well on 2 pistols, and you did have the jungle side hold from him. But by and by, Rooster, the better team here on Inferno, and definitely deserving of the win.
Most definitely, and look, it's not necessarily fair to say that they're deserving of the win just yet, because they will still need to win themselves another map in this series if they really want to be the winners overall. So we'll take a break before we do get there. Map number 2, Mirage, is coming up next. Welcome back on in the matchup, Rooster versus Abyssal. We've seen our first map go by the wayside. I'd say reasonably comfortably to Rooster, 13-8. There was maybe a world where that could have been a little bit cleaner, but realistically speaking, it felt like it was always going to be Roosters to lose. Good first half from Chell, good second half from Juices. A little bit of a cameo in there as well from Reckons at times, and I think that's often going to be the recipe for success for this Rooster lineup going forward.
Yeah, I think that first map is exactly what you'd expect to see in this Rooster team. You've got Skull and ADK, who are kind of a bit more like the role players. Reckons a little bit up and down performance-wise, and so it's Chell, to be fair. But I feel like for Rooster, if you have a game where Juices is pretty consistent, Reckons and Chell are all on at various points, then you're probably going to be in for a good game for yourself. Because for ADK, I mean, he's more of a role player, a bit more of a selfless player for the team. Can come up with some clutches, play some of the harder positions, and for Skull, he's usually on the entry and playing some of the, more difficult positions to play as well. On CT, for example, then I think you're pretty much getting what you want out of everyone, really, and that could be the formula that Rooster needs to become a bit more of a consistent and dangerous-looking team, perhaps.
100%. On the other side of the coin, it didn't really feel like anybody on Abyssal was having a fantastic time. There was a couple of nice rounds from Focus in the second half defending the B site, but didn't really come together at all for Abyssal. I mean, they were good enough to be competitive, but it never really felt like they were in control of that game at any point, I don't think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, they've won themselves some pistols. They've put together a couple of gun rounds. I think the best looking rounds that they had were some of those CT gun rounds where they were holding B, but that was mostly multi-frags from Foggers. Outside of that, don't think they looked terribly competitive. I mean, the game was kind of hanging in the balance at a couple of points where they could have got some resets on Rooster's economy and kind of run away with things, maybe made things more competitive, but all in all, they do lose Rooster's map pick, which I guess is to be expected. So now we push ourselves over onto Mirage, which is a different proposition than the last time these two teams played. I haven't seen Mirage between them. So Abyssal, I think, having lost the previous series and only being able to win Nuke fairly convincingly, which was quite a while ago at this point, hoping that Mirage will be the change-up in the map pool that they might need to potentially test Rooster a little bit, and then if they can push things onto Overpass. I mean, last time around these two teams played, that was a 13-11 win for Rooster, so maybe Abyssal feel like they have a decent shot at actually reverse sweeping here.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's always a possibility, but from what we've seen so far tonight, I think it definitely is leaning in the direction of Rooster, and we'll see what Abyssal can do to try to recover things here on Mirage. They haven't been too bad on the map of late. Getting close with Ground Zero on it, and sort of beating the teams that you'd expect them to beat on the map as well. So there's definitely something to be said for them. We just have to wait and see what we're going to get when we do eventually jump into this second map. But again, another sort of performance like that out of Chell on the CT side with the AWP might just shut this series down, and I imagine that it will be Rooster that will be starting on the CT side if they do get to have the choice of side. So it could bode poorly for Abyssal going forward.
Yeah, totally agree. But we'll see what they've got prepped on their own map pick. I mean, they've made it pretty deep in this qualifier already. Already taken out a couple of the kind of other well-known teams. Made it further than Arcade or Mindfreak, for example, in this bracket. They even took a map off of Ground Zero at one point or another, so it's not like Abyssal are a pushover. They're definitely around the point in the competition that you'd expect them to be. I think Rooster is obviously the bigger name team and the team with players on it that have kind of been in the top couple of teams in Australia at times, and are still once again kind of vying for that position with their current new roster. But for Abyssal, if they win this series or reverse sweep it, I wouldn't be completely shocked. I think Rooster is still kind of in a position where they're building up the chemistry and haven't quite kind of put all the pieces together, so to speak, to be in the same level of form as they used to be. Not to mention the fact they've probably lost some of their better players over quite a while.
Yeah, it looks like we're still waiting for one of the players to get themselves sorted in the server, so not too sure how much longer this will be for you guys that are watching along. Haven't got any update on that at this stage, but you know, it's tough to come into a show like this, Pilski, the day after you've done a podcast, because I feel like we've used all of our material. You know, what is there even to necessarily talk about at this point? I mean, we can talk about Thunder Down Under. You know, and that's obviously tangential to Rooster with ASAP and TJP leaving and going in that direction, and they've now obviously qualified to the major and accepted that slot and whatnot. So be very interested to see how that team is going to do, because I think you know, that's sort of the natural progression of those former Rooster players, and that they get to qualify to their first major and you know, have a bit of a crack at a slightly higher level of competition. Hopefully they don't go 0-3.
Yeah, I hope not. I think, you know, they're a team that does like to disrupt people's pick'ems, or a core that does like to disrupt people's pick'ems at the best of times. So I'm hoping for the best for them. Former Rooster members will be the major rookies. Some of the only major rookies from Australia. I think everybody else on Thunder, as well as FlyQuest, having attended one before. But those are some different teams than the ones that we have in the server, and some very different expectations. You see, second map here, this is Abyssal's map pick after losing Inferno over to Rooster, hoping to reverse sweep this series and try to make their way into the grand final here of Cup number 3 of ECL Oceania.
Yeah, let's have a little bit of a look-see, hey? A little bit of tap in there from Skull. And whoever's here in the jungle, Chelios. It will be. The bomb plant does go down essentially for free for Abyssal, which is often not going to be good news for the CTs, particularly when that jungle position is going to be taken. Very tough to fight your way back in there against Glocks. Time is already ticking away, and they don't have any picks just yet, so it might just have to be a defuse in the smoke here and hope for the best. Tap comes out, 80k is going to fall, Skull will as well, and that is a real nothing round actually from Rooster, and not sure exactly what that was all about, but I think they wanted to just try and make a sneaky defuse happen, and it didn't work.
Yeah, you could see they wanted to contest jungle, but credit to Abyssal, they didn't overextend there. It could have been quite easy to charge into jungle and try to, you know, secure control of Murder Hole, but if they'd run in there, they might have got picked by Chell and found themselves at a disadvantage, not really giving Rooster any opportunities of finding picks back into that one, and as such, forced onto an attempted tapping or a ninja defuse that doesn't end up working out. Good start for Abyssal on their map pick, but we kind of already alluded to it over on Inferno. That's the third pistol that they've won in this series thus far, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win yourself a map.
No, I mean, we've seen already Abyssal win a pistol or two and fail to convert on it. So we'll see whether or not that ends up happening again. It's another 4-star. I mean, this is such a common aspect to the CT side of Rooster, is these, you know, gamble stacky kind of rounds.
For sure. They just save if they, you know, don't end up in a good position. I think Chell is someone that has said, even before the success of Parry Vision, that he likes the way that, you know, these kind of Jame teams play, or maybe some of these CIS kind of stacky approaches that did become very, very popular. In the meantime, though, Abyssal forcing their way into the weak site, and unfortunately for 80k, not quite on top of things, was really trying to pick them on the cross as they came into B. He had too many positions to look at, and the entries do quite well getting into the site. Gump overextending to the scout of Chelios. Will drop the Galil on the ground. Maybe Kyo will go and try to retrieve that at some point in this round.
I think Rooster will be just happy to let this one go by the wayside and see what they can do in the next. Maybe a chance for an exit here for Chell. It looked close. Almost sets it up nicely, and I don't think the bomb's quite going to do the damage that it needs to here. We'll get Kyo in the end. He wasn't able to scurry away far enough, but 3 through from either side. It's not the end of the world. And we'll essentially run it back here for round 2.
Ooh. M4 dropped over. So maybe a little bit more invested in a round like this to try to win it over for Rooster. After saving over those couple of pistols and the scout, Juice is going to try to get a hero M4 and make this an even more competitive prospect. Early start once again over towards this B side of the map. See if Abyssal want to pick up the pace here. At least initially, they're just looking for a pick.
ADK not having too much success so far with that P250. Gumper's been tagged down, but no opening kill. It's a fair bit of delay util with those smokes, but might not be quite as effective on this map as they were on Inferno. Little boost up for ADK on the B site here. It's unlikely that is a position that will get overlooked in a round like this.
Sector control being secured here by Abyssal. Not opting to deposit anybody in that part of the map. Looks like Danger will apply some util pressure to this A side to try to draw a little bit more interest over there from the CTs, but they are still just trusting this 2-3 setup to hold either site.
Easy entry so far. Danger, Keo, Gump getting one apiece. So really not a whole lot to note occurring in this map so far. I feel like it's been pretty standard progression post the pistol for Abyssal. Ooh, shot from Cho with the scout, and he might get one more here. USP doesn't deliver in the end. That's the 3-0, and so now we have to wait and see what Rooster can put together with their buy round.
Another 3 from Danger. Great entries into B there. Everyone chipping in for Abyssal. And Danger being that player to kind of sell that the A pressure was coming in when the B hit was the final destination for Abyssal. Despite the force buy of the M4 for Juices, he still ended up with a rifle in this round. So, nice economy management for Rooster, has to be said. That's not a good start though. Shell with no head armor gets his head ripped off by the M4 of Keo, diving into middle. Our Abyssal untraded its foggers though, as you do see one pegged back from top con, and on the cross things don't go any better for Vinny.
Gump and Danger are apparently in a bit of danger. Although maybe Gump can bail them out of trouble. Nice kill there onto Juices. If he gets one more here over at B. Oh, it's interesting now. I mean, Danger's still got a bit to negotiate, but he's got the time to do it. 1 minute to go and collect that bomb. And try to find the 1v2. Reckon's low. Do not mind, though, if he gets across here. Oh, he won't get all the way up into TV, that's for sure. Footsteps heard, but Reckons can't calibrate in time, and Skull's just thrown a flash on A.
I don't think they knew that the bomb was in the doorway there. Reckons not turning around, although it's a common spot for the T's to leave it. So the death cam heavily suggesting that Danger would make his way into TV and over towards B, but instead he's going to make his way through the middle of the map. Smoke dropped onto short will be a sound cue for Skull, but maybe he's thinking it's a bit of a bait, as Danger will end things towards A. Only question really being, as he drops the molly into jungle, where does he plant and pay the post plant from? It's as open of a plant as possible here. Skull with no smoke for the bomb.
Oh, he's going on short. He will. Just going to jump his way back into CT spawn, but at the very least, as far as Skull's concerned, he kind of knows where Danger is now. He does have an incent too. He could toss that in behind triple, but just going to take the fight, and Danger will win it. That is a disaster for Rooster. A 4v2 in the first gun round. You'd think Rooster would have that one locked up every day of the week, but Gump with the double entry out onto B, and immediately you know that round is on.
Yep, and Rooster losing a clutch to a player that used to clutch on their very squad. They should be well aware what he's able to put together. Double dink from Danger. very cheeky positioning, thinking back across the triple after faking the jump into CT. It seemed like Skull was aware of that, but, you know, that really clutch was down to a game of one bullet. 10 HP for Danger. A second more and he doesn't put it together. The double dink on Khalil, absolutely necessary to secure that one. 4-0 for Abyssal. Seems like this pick of Mirage is going very nicely for them.
Well, time to run it back. No AWP in the picture for Rooster is something that they'll hope to try to alleviate as soon as possible. But gonna have to start winning some rounds first. Kind of a chicken and the egg type situation. A hit looks to be the name of the game here for Abyssal. Maybe just going to wait and see what Gump can do first.
Yeah, I mean, they're smoked off the Palace, so they're feeling a little bit tentative about speeding up on A there. Maybe worried there could be someone top balcony and A setup behind that. So even just that one piece of utility giving enough pause for thought for Abyssal, who don't see anything close B either. Set up in the middle of the map for Rooster, and they actually crunch together as the smokes fly in. They're not going to see anyone in middle. Although they're kind of respecting it at this point.
Time slowly ticking away in this round. A couple of probing moves from Abyssal so far, but nothing really successful. And Gump having fallen over towards the B site will be a concern. Reckons not enjoying where he's found himself. Foggers will dislodge that. Danger knows there's a player underneath balcony. 80k's been picked off over on B, so this round really hinging on whether or not Juices could do anything, and unable to do much. We'll give up that B site. It seems as though we do have a bit of a role reversal here, and this pick of Mirage working out nicely for Abyssal so far.
Yeah, Kio's got the AWP in hand, had a bit of a slow game on Inferno. But if he can start to get going here for Abyssal, it's going to be a pretty well-rounded performance from the lads today. Skull and Shell just trying to hold on to these rifles into the next round. As the loss bonus is maxing out here for a Rooster, who have 80k has saved about 2 grand. So that could be an AWP dropped over to Shell in exchange for a rifle. Another rifle dropped over by Skull. If these two weapons are saved over, only one player will have to go with a weaker weapon, maybe an MP9 or a FAMAS next round. But outside of that, the buy shouldn't be terrible for Rooster.
I mean, not exactly the start to the map that Rooster would have liked it to have been, but AWP for Chell at least now, and we'll see if that makes any significant difference. It will be quite the road to recovery, though. Smoke for window, smoke for bottom con. And immediately, Abyssal have that mid control. Not that they necessarily want it. Once again, it's towards A that they're going to point themselves.
You got a bit more of a forward setup on top of balcony and pivot from the site and top con there. 80k got to deliver quite nicely from this position. If he could double down, then this push should be less fruitful than Abyssal will desire. They're actually tripling up in Palace as the bomb gets dropped on over there.
Smoke's keeping them at bay for now. But it will eventually fade. This A hit is going to come. No real concerns for Rooster so far, as there's nobody under the balcony, but it's going to come down to Skull, and he is out in no man's land. He's really only going to be good for one there. Reckons concerned as well, playing in this stairs position about a push from Con. He'll deal with that well, but can't get the better of Foggers, who gets himself a nice trade. Juices fighting hard. will have no success. Bomb plant's been denied.
Well, the clutch on the cards for Danger. You're pretty good on it on this map so far. Chella's not budged an inch. He was expecting a wide peek from the T there. It's going to burn a lot of time off the clock, and he doesn't have a kit in the back pocket. Might have to fashion that from a body. Drop heard. Danger not swinging off the back of that, playing the close angle. It would have to be a reaction and a no-scope, and that's exactly what it is from Chell. That is just classic Chelios magic.
I was going to say, that would just be the way, that's such a Chell way to win the, I don't know, how does he always do it? Like, you look at that and he's dead to rights. The position that Danger is in is just too good. And then he doesn't even check it, and you're like, oh, okay, he's definitely done. And then somehow you blink and he's won the round. And it's like, well, this doesn't make sense. It defies belief.
No scopes him. Oh, well. It's well played by Danger, but having been a previous teammate of Chelios, he knows that you're liable to lose some rounds like that when you play against him. Abyssal will just have to pick themselves up here and try to keep cracking on this T side. They built themselves quite a nice one, 5-on-1 so far. And looking to just try to go for an A-pop onto Skull here.
Well, one round on the board for Rooster, but it's not going to be enough to put together a CT side. Skull, though, this time looking for 2, gets 2, and in the way that he does, maybe sets things up for his second round here for Rooster, as they still are trying to clear him out, Abyssal, and eventually they do find him at Ninja. Damage, though, has certainly been done. Keo is also low. At least let's go down. We'll see if Abyssal can put together a bit of a miracle here. But again, a 1-for-1. Maybe more than that, though, for Gump, as he gets 80k on the fadeaway through the flash. And Rooster just look very tentative working their way through these retakes on this map, don't they? I mean, Chell with the AWP doesn't necessarily want to be leading the charge. Juice is going to try to cross. Chell trying to cover main, but they have not cleared Sandwich. And again, it'll be another round for Abyssal, and I have to say, I just don't think Rooster looks super comfortable on this map at all.
Nah, Danger's ripping them apart. Dude's 9-2. Really on his revenge arc at this point. Great A-hold from Skull to start things off. I mean, you cannot just get 3v5 like that. To be fair, Gump's conjured something pretty special from top stairs to dig Abyssal out of a pretty poor situation. But on the flip side of that, you look at what Rooster were doing and you think, well, maybe need to get a bit more organized on that A retake.
Yeah. Seems like maybe Abyssal have recognized that as well. They're just going to keep battering down the door on A. Chell's maintained the AWP. But for all the good it's going to do, I'm not too sure. That's a good start. If he can get himself another one, but a lot of noise being made, and Gump is behind multiple, and he's aware of it. So, apart from a token kill or 2 from Rooster, you won't be seeing much out of them in this round.
Yeah, Gump and Danger continuing to deliver. Keo, nice easy plant for him. And reckons footsteps should be heard from unders here. Once again, should be another player who's pretty much dead to rights. Easy one for Gump. Good lurk up through unders. And Abyssal are battering them.
I'm prepared to say we need overpass already. I don't really think Rooster's got what it takes to come back from this on this map. But we'll see. I may be proven wrong still. Abyssal straight out into mid to kick this round off again.
Danger v Skull inside of A main here. Neither one of them really budging early on. And, oh, I thought he was going to be the one to spot the toes, but Skull's a bit more of a toe enthusiast. A bit more experienced in those kind of situations, and that's a nice opening pick for Rooster. They had an entry frag or 2 in the last round, or an opening kill rather, or 2 in the last round, courtesy of Skull, and they weren't able to convert it. So hopefully going to be feeling a little bit better about this one.
That's one way of putting it, Pilsy. Enthusiast. Okay, connector enthusiast apparently is going to be Rooster here as well. Nicely timed double swing catches both of those connector players off guard. Vinny, I thought it would have been heard there by Skull with the ticks on the molly. He's been given a chance, a slim one though. 7-2. Another attempt at a recovery here from Rooster beginning. And this time with 3 guns alive instead of 1.
If they get 4 or 5 here, then it's fair game.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. Abyssal need to make sure they don't let this half slip because they've done a pretty good job. They've even come away with a few rounds that you probably wouldn't be backing them to win. Some, 3 on 5s, 2 on 4s, a couple clutches from Danger. I mean, to be fair, one of Rooster's rounds was a round they should never be winning. So both teams getting a little fortunate here and there. But by far and away, Abyssal being the better team thus far. They're going to take a tack timeout and see if they can continue stringing along these T-side rounds. The money is not really super great for Rooster. They've reduced their loss bonus at least a little bit into some potential reset territory if the saves don't come through. With a couple of pistols in play here for Abyssal, they're going to have to be a little bit more creative about how they construct a round like this.
So same mid smokes. Top mid. And window. Shell's going to respond with a shot and an inset, but this time it's much faster from Abyssal down middle. Reckons he's going to spam through that smoke. There's a little bit of a gap at the top of it. He'll be run down here by Gump, but he has, in a sense, done his job. Now it's up to the rest of the team to put this round together, and that seems to be less of a concern. Maybe Rooster finally starting to wake up here on the map pick of Abyssal.
Could be a reset on the T-side money here. Be massive stuff for Rooster. Much better chance at securing 4. I've let a 2v4 get away from them already so far in this game. Yo, biding his time over here on Bricks. There's no world where he should be winning this duel against Juices. And he doesn't even really look like he wants to take it in the first place.
You're gonna let them get a plant on A.
Yeah, Team Flash on Skull will help them do that. That's for sure. I like that. Give the AK to Foggers on the high HP.
Well, let's see what he can do. Ooh! Hold on. He's definitely on for it. A 1v4 for Foggers. Give him the AK. Now he's got the AWP. Is that going to be considered an upgrade? Juices in the 1v1. And Foggers! Oh, I thought he had it. That really did look on. He's got to spam through. Doesn't know exactly where the bomb plant is. Reload. Oh, the round is over. It was a good effort. It was a good effort.
I mean, that's just another round where Rooster almost look like they're setting themselves up for a disaster class. The bomb plant plus the couple of kills as well actually gives Abyssal enough money to have a crack in this next round if they want to. Money's still not great for Rooster. They put themselves in a position where you're backing them to close that out with 3 or 4 alive, and now they are once again scraping the bottom of the bank account. It's only a Tech 9 armor buy from Abyssal, but if they get through with it, then they could probably go up 9-3 here.
Try a quick hit towards the B site, and that might well work out. 80k fully flashed, can't see much, gets the opportunity to reset, but no frags for him, so Juices the big job to do, and he lands a nice couple of shots there onto Vinny and Danger, which will slow down the progress. This is great work in the end. Juices has survived, Reckons has come across to reinforce, and all of a sudden that B hit is stalled to come. Attempting a miracle, won't get it, and that 7-5 starts to feel like more of a realistic possibility.
Yeah, I mean, that's heroics from Juices and MBK. He just survives for so long. All the teams want to do is actually pick up this CT. Because with MBK control and playing some of those close market angles, the retake gets a lot harder. But when you at least have that player out on the site, you can feel a bit more confident that you can flood back in. Not that that was even needed, because Juices pretty much just wins around himself. So Rooster survived to potentially try to tee themselves up 5 instead of facing down a 3-9 deficit at the half. Avoid that roadblock at least. And as mentioned before, I mean, at one point down 0-6, they could get 5 rounds together here in reply. That is a very big recovery, and it's still a winnable game for them.
This would be an impressive comeback, to say the least, for Rooster. But still need to get this last round of the half together, get that 7-5, and then perform well on the T side too. Until it's done. Another double swing at Con, and another that is going to largely prove to be successful for Rooster. Skull's going to chase Vinny. Don't know if that was necessarily so advised. The bomb dropped in connector and unable to be retrieved. Awkward. 80k though, gets the better of Vinny. So at the half time, 5 on the end of that for Rooster, not looking too bad. Alright, well, second half here of Mirage, and things are feeling maybe a little bit more interesting than they were at this point on Inferno. 7-5, a scoreline that really didn't feel like it was going to be possible for Rooster, but they make a nice little comeback there at the back end of the first half, and now anybody's guess as to which way this series is going to head.
Yeah, I think when you were like up 6-0, 7-1 as Abyssal on the T side of this map, this is your map pick. Changed up the veto, you're thinking, wow, this has worked out great for us, but you've just let Rooster back into the game. A couple of BS rounds put together and a couple of solid rounds on the CT side towards the end of the half, so they've well and truly worked their way back into it, and a win on the T side pistol would have them start to front run this game. 4 players on the CT side here, all planted towards mid and B, and that's exactly where Rooster are headed. Danger from underpass. Needs to have some impact here. Who's the hero of the pistols over there on Inferno, but it's a disastrous start for Abyssal.
Yep, Skull straight up into connector with that bomb as well. It's certainly signaling the intentions to head. Hey, that's a nice double from Fogus. He's potentially on for more here as well. He's really isolating these angles nicely, but can't get more than just the 2, and unfortunately that's probably not quite going to be enough to stall the momentum here of Rooster. Double-pronged retake coming through from CT with Fogus leading the charge. Keo there with the dualies. Now the Rooster players have gotten out to relative safety, the exception being Juices, who's just scurrying back in towards jungle. They're all stacked up in jungle, so this smoke onto the bomb will do a bit of work. The trouble is Fogus is only 25 HP, so he's not going to be able to defuse inside of it. And the pistol round will go the way of Rooster.
Couple of awkward positions that don't particularly go well. In Abyssal, they've been a bit hit or miss in terms of their reads on the pistols, but by and large winning them, courtesy of either a clutch from Danger or a really good setup. That's a round where it feels like they're waiting for Rooster to either be pop or go through underpass, and they kind of get caught by the big swing on top mid and double entry right at the start of that round. It just felt untenable to get back into it. But a close game nonetheless. Abyssal, their nose out in front at the half. Even if they get anti-eco'd here, and we'll have plenty of CT gun rounds. And I felt like their CT gun rounds on Inferno were better than the scoreline might indicate. They have a good CT side here on Mirage as well. Then, you know, they're still on for a game, but they've made it a lot harder on themselves than they might have had to.
Flash into middle. Does catch Skull. Oh, and Keo. He's actually looking a little bit scary there with that Mag 10, but can't quite calibrate onto Reckons' head. Assistance coming in there from Juices, but unrequired. 7-7 scoreline has equalized, and it sort of feels like it's Rooster that are in the driver's seat at the moment.
By coming back through, though. Abyssal looking for a reply. Rooster with a, I think, very strong core, but also, I mean, time and time again, I think people mention the IGL of Chelios. I feel like this guy can definitely dig you out of a game that needs to be won on the T side with some good calling. Just had an interview with ASAP, and he was really praising Chelios' calling as well, having been a long-time teammate of his.
Pass play in towards B. Good test initially for Abyssal. Vinny and Danger are answering that call initially. Quite well enough in the end, though, as it will come down to a couple of trades and now a bomb plant for Rooster.
3-on-3 for the retake. Mostly headed up by this duel on short. Skull very low. He'll be lucky to even get one here and put them in a position to complete this retake. Not ready for the swing on top. It only takes 50 HP away from Danger. Juices and Shell, a dynamic duo that could win you any 2-on-3 any day of the week. One tap starts it off well for Juices over on bench side. Shell kind of playing that pivot position, and he'll need to do exactly that. Feels like he's playing a mind game with Keo right now. Oh, that is a gorgeous one tap to end it. And Chelios, just beautiful positioning. Crosshair placement on the backside of the site there.
You can see why people thought he was cheating before he played LAN. You remember that? Like back in the day?
Bro, what do you mean people? I am people.
Yeah.
He was doing it to me.
Some of the clips he's had in this series have just been so ridiculous. Not even clips necessarily, but just shots. Just some of the shots. Anyways, 8-7. Rooster win that first gun round. It was a close one, to be fair, but they're kind of just keeping this scoreboard ticking over, and if that continues, then sooner rather than later, Abyssal are going to be locked out of this match.
Yeah, it gets quite close, though. It's not like Rooster are getting crazy amounts of money together just yet. They're not hitting their window smokes either. Not going to end up punishing them too much when your opponent only has pistols brought into this round. ADK making a little bit of a noise coming into con, and Rooster taking mid control has been given to them. Might just go shook B to B. It's a pretty high percentage anti-eco these days. They've kind of left ADK to be a bit of a pest in con.
It's a good shot for Danger. The only player with a rifle in this round for Abyssal needs to have an impact, and has. Shell's still got a bit of room to have a look at this site. I mean, we'll be aware that, you know, there's somebody lurking there. Hasn't spotted him out just yet. Surprised that Abyssal haven't shifted an extra player over, because they've got so much presence in A main. They're still going to allow Rooster to contact him onto this B side, and that could potentially be just enough if they get clean entries, which they, to an extent, do. Danger's found the double, but 3-on-3 for the post plan. Ooh, never mind, not 3-on-3 anymore. Keo, nice headshot there onto Juicers, and so it comes down to ADK, who will perhaps take a risk here. Inside of this smoke, Reckons has got 2, and Keo shift walking out the smoke. This round has just disappeared again for Abyssal. It seems like that all that luck, all that fortune has evaded them that they had in the first half, is now going in the direction of Rooster.
It's a nice double entry for Reckons, and then he peeks out and just, they line up for him on the market window. It's right for the picking. But finally, Abyssal, I mean, they've been waiting for this moment. They have the AWP on Keo, they have all the bells and whistles on this CT side. But despite the 6-0 start, since then it's been 9-1 in favor of Rooster from the next 10 rounds. Absolute domination half to half coming back into this game. Momentum is firmly with them to close it out at this point. They've already picked up Inferno in this series, and they are hungry for the 2-0 now.
Yeah, so it would seem. Another gun round on offer for Abyssal, though. Let's not count our Roosters before they hatch, so to speak. Chell and Keo exchange blows, and it is Chell that does come off worse, but the player falling.
Util exchange in the middle here between both teams. Pretty hands-off approach from the CT side. Reckons wanting to creep up into con. In fact, 3 players from Rooster all making their way over there. Keo bangs them straight through the smoke to open things up for Abyssal.
Nice 2K for Skull. Keo wanted some success on the player coming out Palace, but won't get it. And Skull kind of keen for a bit more of a fight into CT here. Awkward if Chell falls, because he's got the bomb in hand and he's low. Luckily, ADK will win that fight on jungle side. And again, results in a bomb plan. It's a bit of a tenuous one for Rooster, but they still get it down. They still have that 3-on-2. And the more time that they're given, the more time that they have to work into a nice post plan. And Chell will get it done for the team. 10-7 now. And like I said, you know, none of these rounds are looking absolutely sublime necessarily from Rooster, but they're doing enough to keep that scoreboard ticking over, and sooner or later Abyssal are just going to run out of opportunities, and it kind of feels like they're already almost at that point.
I mean, yeah, you can't argue with the streak that Rooster's been on since they went down 0-6 at the start of this game. This will back down onto another half bite. Feels like they had a very good approach at the start of the T side. Maybe a clutch or two, fortunately, going their way, but not much has been on offer since then. Rooster really want to be teeing themselves up another series against Ground Zero. Keo missing the shot on the scout to start things off. Sees multiple players inside of a ramp. And she does do a little bit of chip damage to the CTs on stairs side there. 1-4 for Rooster with a player in B arps. They're anticipating some aggression from Abyssal, given the fact that they don't have much to work with in a round like this.
That's a good shot for Keo. That shot from the scout will be enough. Skull's gone through the smoke, and Vinny's passed right by him. This could be awkward, actually, for Rooster. Bombed back in transition over towards B. We'll see what Vinny decides to do. He's on his way over towards A. Oh, if he would have just held at T-Apps, he might have been able to catch the bomb in transition, but instead he's fully rotated back over towards A, so bomb will actually make its way scot-free into B. And Skull locking down Market. Juice is also catching Vinny as he tries to return back to his domain. And now Jump will be watched for by ADK, so that round just slipping away from Abyssal again.
It was only the half buy, but you thought that they might have been on for a crack with Keo catching one on the cross there at least. Which is, ironically, exactly what happens to him. Danger looking for any exits he can with the Famous and light armor. But Rooster just continue to trudge their way through this T side and tee themselves up for a 2-0. They want to, as mentioned before, have another crack at a ground zero that they beat in the last cup, but were knocked into the lower bracket by earlier on in this cup. It's been a bit of a back and forth domestic matchup lately. And, yeah, I mean, regardless of who ends up playing them, I'm eager to see what ground zero looks like with the addition of Slimy now. He seems to be putting up good stats for the team at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably still a work in progress on that front. But he's a pretty experienced player. He's been in a few teams now. He should be able to sort of slot in as necessary. Bit of a grudge match, Rooster versus Slimy as well, if that does come to pass. Keo this time to open the account with the AWP. So a bit more work needing to be done by Rooster. And I remind you that Abyssal have not found a CT side round just yet. This could be the one where they start to get the ball rolling.
Flash and a nade. Up looking for a pick on Con there. Chelios creeping out onto the line in mid. Restart. Just waiting for Abyssal to give them opportunities. They might only have a disadvantage here. But this is the kind of round that still hangs in the balance. Rooster very good at finding these picks. Smoke goes up onto Con there. Rooster's opting to respect it. In comes the pressure on short side. Danger shuts the door with the molly.
Smoke's not going to be up for too much longer here in middle, so Rooster are going to have to get a bit of a wriggle on. Looks to be maybe towards the A side that they will turn their attention. They've got ADK lurking around in main. Tag onto Keo will not be a confirmed kill. Looking to sweep their way towards jungle. Again, missed shot from Keo, and now the pressure starting to build on this A side as Abyssal start to lose members all over the place. Fongers, he doesn't know where to look. He's got so many players heading in his direction that he can't deal with. And somehow Rooster just negotiate that round almost without loss after getting put into the 4-on-5.
Yeah, they go 1 for 4 after that. Abyssal, and that is not going to be good enough. We need to save the AWP. Opened up the round nicely. But it feels like an inevitability at this point that Rooster will tee up another game with ground zero in the final now. This is still a team that has had their moments tonight. Same thing could be said on Inferno. With a 6-0 start on Mirage, I think I was feeling like we were going to head to Overpass inevitably. Because Abyssal, even back in January, given that it was Rooster playing with Fruitian, have been able to stomp Rooster on a single map. But the current Rooster that you see in the server is a much improved Rooster. I think after both of the lands and a cup, this is a team that has now really started to find its stride and is looking more and more dangerous. They've got more depth. They've, worked on things since having to kind of rebuild a team that was falling apart at the seams after losing star player after star player. Majority of the old core. But this is looking like a much more dangerous prospect, Rooster. Is it a good enough prospect to beat ground zero? I'm not sure, but we've already seen them be able to put that win together in the last cup at least.
We'll see what we get out from this potential final round of the map. Double AWP is the option of choice for Abyssal. Really sort of scraping the bottom of a barrel as far as ideas are concerned at this point. They're just going to try and throw anything at the wall and see what sticks.
Oh, good start for Vinny. Had to be a mere passenger in that last round, saving the AWP, but this time finding the impact. Restart. into another 4-on-5 that in just the round previous they were able to convert, given a lot of space in middle.
Let's not forget how easily Rooster negotiated the last 4-on-5.
This one, I think, looking a bit better though. I mean, you've got Foggers in Palace. The AWP's posted up on Ticket with the gun playing the pivot position from jungle. Like, positionally, this is looking like a very good round for Abyssal. Last time, I think they were a little bit too caught up in trying to, you know, deal with the con cross or fight short or this or that. I think mid to B here is probably the play though.
It's a tag onto Gum. You're right about it being a mid to B so far, but the success lacking. Vinny eventually flies too close to the sun as he peeks into Chell, who was watching that line. They still need to deal with danger. Skull is able to do that. The MP9 not really doing danger any favors there, and Chell's got himself another pick. All of a sudden, the call is to go straight over to A. Juices has taken that space. He's locking down jungle. They can plant for short. Flash over the top to CT to deny any push out there. Molly as well. Juices and Chell working nicely in tandem. And all of a sudden, this round has, again, slipped away from Abyssal. It's all too familiar territory. Gump through the murder hole is not going to have any success, and Chell finishes off Keo. And that's that. The 4v5 again secured by Rooster. And not only that, but they've won the series 2-0, and quite a comfortable win in the end as well.
They go down 0-6, and then from the next 14 rounds, they go 13-1. That is domination from Rooster after a, I mean, not an Abyssal start, but I'll call it an abysmal start. Really managing to bring themselves back into that one. And I think the way that they worked their way through those last couple of 4-on-5s, it felt like you were watching vintage Rooster, didn't it? Like, they're just able to, through good positioning, reading the mid-round, finding some picks, just good intuitive counter-strike, pick themselves out of the most untenable situations. It's really been great to watch from Rooster tonight. Definitely deserving of the 2-0 here. And look, let's see if they can have a crack at Ground Zero. Already a lot of the heavy hitters have made their way into the Asia-Pacific finals from Oceania, at least. Less so, I think, from Asia. It's been a bit touch and go with the participation. You've had some upsets from some of the Chinese teams. You know, you got Morningstar Change the Game already qualifying. I think setting Ground Zero or Rooster into a tournament like that, given who's qualified from Asia, should make that a pretty competitive tournament as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, 100%. And look, pretty tight match the last time we got to see Rooster and Ground Zero play. 13-11, 13-9, 13-6. So some decent matches there. And by the way, in classic Ground Zero fashion, they lost their first map and came back on the reverse sweep. That's always how they like to do it. We'll see whether or not, you know, we get another solid match out of that grand final. Like I said earlier, I think still Ground Zero trying to integrate Slimy into that lineup, but at the end of the day, you know, it seems like they've already kind of got enough to deal with this Rooster squad, and we'll see whether or not that ends up being the case tomorrow, because that's where Rooster are going to be headed into the grand final of the Cup number 3 of Oceania's ECL Season 51. That is us from... Oh, well, that is it from us tonight, actually, I would say. There is also, by the way, an Asia match that will be taking place in a couple of hours. We won't be covering it. Next, Void versus Chinggis Warriors, though. Mongolian Derby, and I think that will be a pretty interesting one to tune into to see. Mr. Urcast, if you're an Oceania fan, you should probably catch up with what Next Void is up to. So that'll be on ESL CSB with Tea Time and Yumi later on tonight, I imagine. So hope you guys enjoy that one, and we'll catch you again tomorrow for some more Oceania. Same time, same place, grand final, Ground Zero versus Rooster. We'll see you then. And so Shell's going to take that as there's no one coming, but in fact there is a lot of people coming.
An AWPer to be here, and that is a freebie for Chelios. The trigger discipline here. He wants both. He's feeling very greedy at this point. Wants to multi-frag with the USP. This could potentially go horribly wrong, but at least he's got the 1-for-1 there.
Plotted them out, so Intent is going to go through. But Rooster will commit anyway, and ADK gets an unreal entry into pit. The rest of the job needing to be done by the team on the site, and it will not be.
He's looking quite good for Chelios here.
Gets one, and that's an AK with some bullets. He's going to commit to the fight. Foggers low on HP and will be finished off. Chell just... Well, let's see what he can do. Ooh! Hold on. He's definitely on for it. A 1v4 for Foggers. Give him the AK. Quite well worked out. 80k fully flash. Can't see much. Gets the opportunity to reset, but no frags for him. So Juice's the big job to do, and he lands a nice couple of shots there onto Vinny and Danger. Will slow down the progress. This is great work for Ian, who was watching that line. They still need to deal with Danger. Skull is able to do that. The MP9 not really doing Danger any favors there, and Chell's got himself another. And all of a sudden, this round has, again, slipped away from Abyssal. It's all too familiar territory. Gump through the murder hole is not going to have any success, and Chell finishes off Keo.